And joining us now from San Francisco, Philip Yoon, the Executive Director of the Ploughshares Fund, which aims to prevent the spread and the use of nuclear weapons. Good to see you, Philip. I want to start with those who were at the table, and more specifically those who were not. No signer Kim Jong-un, the website North Korea Leadership says he is well known to external Pyongyang watchers as the country's chief nuclear negotiator, as well as holding a leading role in managing the DPRK's interactions with the United States. I could be reading too much into this, but does that indicate he's simply not needed because Kim Jong-un is across all the technical details of the nuclear program? Also, no representative of the North Korean military. No Kwang-chol is a three-star general. He's in Singapore, but again, wasn't at the table, which seems a little unusual given the military's powerful role.
Yeah, I think what it is that Kim Jong-un seems to want to project a sense of strength and knowledge of the issues. I think my sense is if this thing is actually, I'm curious, we haven't seen the document yet. That's going to be critical, but I do think that my sense is a lot of this had been worked out in detail in advance, and I know that Kim Jong-un was actually in Panmunjom meeting with U.S. officials and others. So I wouldn't read too much at the fact that he is not there. I do think the fact that the military person was not there also seems to indicate Kim Jong-un wanting to say that he's very much in control and doesn't need those kinds of aids. And I saw that to some degree when Kim Jong-il met with Madeleine Albright. There was a real effort for him to seem like he is in control and command of the facts.
Okay, before the summit, the U.S. president tweeted this: "The fact that I'm having a meeting is a major loss for the U.S., say the haters and losers. With our hostages, testing, research and all missile launches have stopped. And these pundits who have called me wrong from the beginning have nothing else they can say. We will be fine." Spelling mistakes aside, it seems a little premature for Donald Trump to be saying it's all going to be fine. In fact, there's still much which could go wrong, and horribly wrong.
No, I think that's absolutely right. As I've said before, the path to success looks like this. We've already traveled this path a couple of times, and we're repeating sort of the same, going over the same road right now. This is what success is going to look like if there is going to be a success. The critical point is this is the beginning of the process. It's going to be a long process, and we're just going to have to see what happens. No one can say for sure what is going to happen moving forward. We haven't even seen the document to make any kind of determination whether they really made a decision about what denuclearization means, what's the timeline, what does that mean. So there's a lot to go on, to wait for. But again, this is a good first sign. The optics were good. It's always good to have this kind of rapport. We'll just have to, it's all about the follow-up, and that's critical.
There was a lot of touching, a lot of feeling when these two leaders met. While shaking hands, Donald Trump grabbed Kim's upper arm. He placed his hand on his back, guided him into that meeting room. There were smiles, there were warm words. I guess the closest comparison we have to this kind of high-level meeting is from 2009, when former U.S. President Bill Clinton met with Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il. He was in Pyongyang to negotiate the freedom of two American reporters. Throughout, Clinton maintained this dour expression. He never smiled. Admittedly, a very different situation, but did President Trump send the right message here at that first meeting?
Well, I do think that the circumstances were very different in 2009. It was bringing back a couple hostages. I think the better comparison may be actually in 2000. I think the North Koreans themselves, they have to be thrilled and really pleased with the, for them, this is a big win. Kim Jong-un is now on the center stage. He has been courted in certain ways by the Chinese. The Russians want to meet him. At some point, I'm sure the Japanese will want to meet him. So he has his prestige and his status has been raised an incredible amount, generally by this whole diplomatic process. Part of it because he been very adept, and now he's meeting the American president. So he's going to be happy. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think for Donald Trump, I'll have to say he looked very much in control of this process. And certainly that is going to play well back home. But again, the whole thing depends on what the substance of the actual agreement is, and we're just going to have to see what that actually says.
Very quickly, almost out of time, take a look at the front page of North Korea's main newspaper, a full-on color spread, photographs of Kim Jong-un walking around Singapore. It's a modern city with the kind of bright lights most North Koreans have never seen. Is this another sign of the changes to Kim Jong-un's image at home? He's on the international stage now. In some ways, he seems to be heading towards more openness. which would seem to be hard to walk back at this point.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that there's a lot of symbolism with that handshake with Donald Trump. You know, the United States has been sort of the great Satan, the cause for all the North Korean suffering. And so even though Kim Jong-un is a dictatorship, he's got to signal to his people that things are going to change. Even if, you know, it's like a big ship. You can't turn it on a dime. It has to happen very slowly. And this is the beginning of that process, if it's going to happen. And so I do think that there is great importance in the symbolism. And so this is the start, again, of a process. Again, we could be right back where we were, knowing how North Korea is, where we were last year, where there was all these threats, more missile tests, more nuclear tests. We're just going to have to see what happens.
We're also getting word that Kim Jong-un